Good morning. I'm Tom Power. I'm General Counsel at CTIA and also Chair of the CTIA Smart Hairbrush Working Group. I'm very pleased actually to be able to introduce our next guest. Cristiano Amon is Executive Vice President of Qualcomm Technologies and the President of Qualcomm CDMA Technologies. I'm sure, as all of you know, Qualcomm is the world's leading provider of wireless chipsets and software solutions. In his role, among other things, Cristiano provides overall leadership for Qualcomm semiconductor activities, and he has unparalleled knowledge of wireless devices and wireless technologies. So we're very pleased to have him here to share his insights on mobile device security. So please welcome Cristiano Amon.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be here. Thank you for the introductions, much appreciated. Cybersecurity, in particular mobile devices, is a very rich topic. I understand I have about 20 minutes. I probably have information to talk to all for about a day. There's a lot of things happen in the industry, but if I can get maybe a few things to the presentation today understood, I think it's going to be very important. I think cybersecurity I do believe, is also beyond the protection, I think, of the networks and protection of customer data. I think protection of everything that's going to happen in the country. There's also going to be a competitive advantage. I think there are going to be services that will be required into the future, and you're not going to be able to do it if you actually don't have a good security solution. So with that, I think one of the things I wanted to start, just a quick introduction about Qualcomm. For the folks that don't know about Qualcomm, we're the largest company that nobody knows about it. We have been, probably behind the screen. We provide chipsets for a lot of the smartphones. We have significant presence in other industries that have been influenced by mobile, and we have been working since the beginning of our company in the technology that drives, the connection between, the smartphones and the networks. We have been a partner of many of the networks, providers in this country. Just a little bit of a statistics. We're about 30 years old. We're the #1 fabless semiconductor company, and we ship, 842 million MSMs a year. And a chipset that goes is actually a platform. So if we count individual chipsets, we stop counting. We'll be in the billions. One of the things that we all see today with the smartphone is there are a large number of those devices. The smartphone today is the largest platform ever built by mankind. It's way bigger than PCs, way bigger than anything else. If you're an application developer, you develop an application on iOS and Android, the amount of people you can reach is, it's so big. There's more smartphones right now than toothbrushes. That's the situation account. And we expect there's going to be 8.5 billion of those devices from this year to 2021. So if you look about the statistics, there's 7.5 billion people, and 57% of those individuals on the planet now have a portable computer in their hands. There's also all the consumer electronic information with them, and they're connected to the cloud. If I break down that statistic of 57%, United States is 75%, Russia 48%. So that's how you should think about it, how, that's the magnitude, and we only talking about people. I think I heard in the prior discussions, I think Scott made a lot of comments about going beyond people. We'll talk a little bit about that, but that's the order of magnitude. And why security it's very important. If you look at smartphone at the center, the smartphone, if you think about the Japanese, and I use Japanese as an example, there's many other industry, but the consumer electronics industry of the 80s, the portable, music player, the Walkman. You have the video portable players. You have the entire camera industry that became digital camera. This is all the smartphone today. That's where the consumer electronic industry is. Most of the volume and technology for the entire consumer electronics, from camera, video, gaming, that's in the smartphone. Which means the smartphone also has a lot of the data associated with that. So the consumer data, all of your personal content. So the way I'm describing this slide, you think about what the smartphone is doing and everything that is impacting around it. Productivity is another thing happening. I think people still buying PCs, but I think all of us, if you go and look at the amount of time you spend on your PC every year, you're still going to have them. But more and more, the devices become more capable for you to do productivity. So you actually have all of the productivity information. You have your email, your corporate email, all of your company data, and you have access to the network. So it become, an integral part of the network. And then you have, of course, all of your personal information. So if you think about it, it's because the platform is so powerful and became so large, it is not about one industry. It's about every other industry now sees the smartphone as the end of their network. If I am in the banking industry, I am connected to the smartphone. If I'm the healthcare industry, I'm connected to the smartphone. In the gaming industry, etc. So the platform is now in the hands of everyone. And every other industry has no choice, because we're becoming mobile, to extend their services. So security comes at the very center of the whole discussion. And the good and the bad thing is, if you secure the smartphone, you actually can secure everybody else's industries as that end of the segment. Assuming somebody's going to do their good job on one end, on the cloud end, the smartphone being secure, you will provide an end-to-end security. You don't do a good job, that's the weakest link in the whole chain. So I think the way to think about it is, it is imperative to make sure that the smartphone is secure. I'll give you an example a little bit. Let me move because this is making noise. I'll give an example. Maybe I'll pick one industry in particular. I am in a board of directors of a retail bank. And one of the things that banks are dealing with right now is they have branches everywhere. And the baby boomers are going to go to the branch. Maybe some of the generation X and Y will go to the branch. Some of the generation Y and X don't go to the branch anymore. Millennials don't go to the branch. Centennials don't go to the branch. So what happened now is the banks are seeing that most of the growth on the interaction with a bank is through mobile. And that's the fastest growing. So I was having a discussion with the bank, and they say, look, when you're inside the bank, you have inside the bank, and they have a security guard, and you inside the branch, you identify yourself, and you're speaking with the branch manager that got access to your account, and you got a password. That's a very safe environment. You can talk about all the different bank products, your information, you can do a transaction. If the millennial doesn't go to the bank, or centennial doesn't go to the bank, that mobile bank app in his phone needs to be the branch. That's the branch. And you need to make sure that it's as safe and provide all the services you would like it to do in that application. Otherwise, you're not going to be competitive, because they're not going to go to the branch to your safe environment. So I think that's the magnitude of the importance of actually securing those devices. The other thing that is important to understand, and I think I tie into the prior discussion, is securing the device or securing the network are not isolated things. You have to secure every single endpoint. And you have to get to the lowest point of that you can actually anchor the security, and you get to as close as you can get to a fail-proof situation. So I think it is not enough to secure the cloud. It is not enough to secure the network, and it is not enough to secure the device. But you cannot have security without actually securing all of the endpoints, and I think that's how we think about it. But there's another topic which is that is worth talking about it, which is you cannot bring security at the compromise of user experience, because people will actually don't want things to be more complicated. I think it was refreshing to see, I think Scott mentioned it in the prior presentation, you have to find a solution that you can do both. And that's why I mentioned about security is not only for protection, but also a competitive advantage requirement. Because you wanted the individual to feel safe, to be able to do what he needs to do with his information, because there is no way around it. Everything is going to the cloud. Everything is going to get connected, and you cannot anymore, avoid that trend. But you have to do it in a way that is acceptable, because if you make it too difficult. So for you to, and that's why I want to highlight that we have a goal. If we could focus on one simple goal, eliminate passwords completely. Eliminate the concept of a login and a password. And I will talk a little bit about how do we see that being possible. You can actually give an element of further security to all the systems while you make it very easy for the user. So rather than go to each one of those examples about all of the things we're doing to secure a device, if I go to that goal, which is if we can eliminate the password or minimize the use of a login and password, we can go a major step forward in dealing with security. So the way login and the password works, it's a proxy of yourself. So you have your login and we all have to memorize a bunch of those, and then machines can talk to each other because they have authorization from you. That's a proxy of you. So if you can validate a person, that person is you, without a doubt, that person is you. You can validate the device, so that you on your device, and the device is in good shape, that has not been compromised. You could eliminate a password. You can authenticate somebody every time. And I think the way to do this, you have to rely on a basket of technologies that we have available, and make sure that at the lowest point, and of course that's our view, because once you have security at the hardware level, it is very difficult for you to break it. I think the mobile industry has been dealing with this at some capacity with the concept of serial numbers that get put in every phone for the manufacturer to avoid cloning of phones. But I think we need to take this to the whole new level. But you can actually achieve that goal. And I'll give you some examples how we're doing. We've been building a number of technologies in the chip and at the hardware level, so we can actually extract information from the OS, from the application, and if that is compromised, you can maintain the integrity of the device or the information. The other thing that we're doing, and I'll give you some example as we go down the presentation, is we're spending a lot towards machine learning. I think for those that not familiar with machine learning, a very easy way to explain. Traditional programming, you have an input, you write a program, you have an output. Machine learning, you have an input, you have an output, then the computer writes the program. So by comparing what is acceptable behavior, if you do this, this is what I expect you to see, then the program, machine learning can actually predict what you're doing and verify if you have different behavior. That's very important for security. So I'll go to a few examples of things you can do that you achieve the objective of security in a smartphone and you don't compromise user experience. One is multi-factor authentication with biometrics. There are 3 different vectors actually we're developing in our chips in a secure environment, so the information gets stored at the hardware. And I think control of what happens in the chip is very important. I think it's very important for the country. It's very important to understand, how you can actually preserve the integrity of each one of those solutions. So you get your fingerprint. Your fingerprint, I think everybody talk about Apple Touch ID. A very good projection is by 2020, we expect about 52% of every single smartphone will have fingerprint sensors. So that's very good because you can use biometrics. And in fingerprint, there's a lot of things you can do to make it even more powerful. I'll tell you one of the things that we are doing. A lot of companies have been investing in a number of technologies for fingerprint. The most common one is you have a capacitive sensor. Qualcomm, we started a few years ago with ultrasound technology, the same ultrasound they use for medical ultrasound. With ultrasound, if you have dirt in your hands, I think if any of you had a medical ultrasound, there's gel that goes with it. In ultrasound, you can get the fingerprint, the ridges of the finger. With more precision, inside the ridges, all of us have sweat pores. You can map the sweat pores. Then you can go deeper into the finger. And using things that you probably see when you get a medical ultrasound, we see blood flow on the arteries and the veins. Then we can map the arteries in the vein, mapping of that person. And then with all of those things, you can do this behind the glass, behind metal, because it's sonic waves. With all of those things, you can actually have very high reliability of fingerprint. Even with live finger detection, it's important also because a dead finger will still have fingerprints. The other one is iris and face recognition. So it's very easy to the user. Because of selfies, every phone has a front-facing camera. You see this on Microsoft Windows today. You can put this on the phones. And then the number one is voice print. We developed technology that is always listening, like OK Google or things like that, and you can actually map an individual voice pattern. So with multi-factor authentication, and a very easy thing to do for the consumer, you can actually identify that person without, a possible, very, very little ability to make a mistake. The other thing that you can do is location. Location is very important. You know where the person is at the time. And this is location is another thing with machine learning. The machine learning can know that, with all, anonymous, with the protection of the customer information. But your phone is your phone. You know what you do. It will know, for example, that you use your credit card in such locations. And like I said, in machine learning, there's an understand of the ins and the outs. And then if everything is different, the phone is aware it's different. So where you are, it's you. You are in this location. And then the last part is your device is healthy. Your device has not been compromised, which means it is the device with the ID you expect it to have. It has that software version. It has information about the integrity of the software and is doing what it's supposed to do. This is another area that I think machine learning that we've been developing and doing all those things at chip level has been a key tool. Like a lot of applications today have a token that you get an SMS. You get an SMS to authenticate you. When you're doing an SMS or receive an SMS, there's an expectation that, if you type in an SMS, you touch the screen, you open the keypad. If the phone is sending an SMS in the background, it's not supposed to be doing it. So then machine learning will detect, and it can actually stop a threat. So with that, I'm going to give you a few examples. There was one case study, is the malware Hooligan. So it has, basically installed into the phones, and when it gets installed into the phones, we'll get a hold of a lot of the consumer personal data. And I want you to go back to the very first slide that I presented, when you have the smartphone at the center and you have a number of industry that is now touching. Once you get access to the consumer data, you're not only accessing one particular thing like a credit card. Every single industry that will be connected to the mobile phone could be compromised. And if an application installed, with you install an application and it has malware, propagates to the contamination, you brought it in. You invited the vampire to your house. So the question is, how do you actually prevent that from happening? And one of the things we've been doing is putting the chipset at the center. For all of the examples I gave you, when you store your fingerprint as a valid fingerprint, we actually remove it from the operational system and from the app and store it in a secure area of the hardware. Same thing with the GPS data, same thing with the audio, same thing with the camera for face recognition. And we even secure that link into the phone. Then you have your biometrics there, you have your location, the location and the biometrics as reliable information. You can use that to monitor pattern, and you actually be able to get the device secure. And I think I may go into, and the thing that is important in this whole discussion is, I I don't think this is a problem that is just us staring at the smartphone today. If you look at what's happening in the industry, mobile technology is going to a number of other industries just because you can't not compete with the scale of mobile. So mobile is going to automotive, connected car, a Snapdragon platform that we do. We have now designs in 12 of the top 20 car makers to do the infotainment and the dashboard based on a smartphone platform. The smartphone technology is going to wearable devices, is going to computing, is going to another other industries, is going to the medical industry. So from that 7.5 billion people, we're going to get to 23 billion people devices, and it's all going to get connected to the cloud, because Internet of Things is a thing with the internet. And once you connect it to the cloud, if that element is compromised, you have a chance that the cloud could be compromised, or the service could be compromised. And I think that's the magnitude of the problem, around us. And I think I just wanted to show that it's possible for us to actually make this into a competitive advantage. I think, for the industry, a competitive advantage for the country, why we actually protect information, because, there is no, it's a one-way street. I think everything will be accessible from a mobile device, and securing the mobile device is going to be just requirement to be in business. And I think, the sooner that we do this, the sooner that we understand, and actually the more ambition we set the goals for ourselves, like try to reduce threats by eliminating needs for passwords every time, I think the fastest we get to the objective. So I finished right on time. I think this is what I wanted to share with you. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Thank you.